All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahal from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah. And a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwathim, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwathim is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yashar Allah is Israel in the Paleo Hebrew. All right, I want to go into a lesson based on this article. It reads, China, India, Syria, and others link up with Russia next month for sweeping war games. All right, now we know according to prophecy, all right, that a third world's woe is upon us. All right, this is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. All right, and what you have right now is the lines being drawn in the sand. All right, you have certain nations who have already picked sides, and then you have nations who are on the fence. A perfect example is Turkey. All right, we know according to prophecy that Turkey is going to side with Russia. But at this moment, Turkey is basically riding the fence. All right, they're collecting the best of both worlds, if you will, concerning their relationship with the U.S. and with Russia. All right, but eventually through the spirit, according to prophecy, things will take a turn. All right, and they're going to join Russia. All right, now I want to hold Ezekiel 38. And then what we're going to do is we're going to read a little bit of this article. OK, so I'm going to start here. It says Russian Defense Ministry says Vostok 2022 exercise will be held September 1st through 7th in various locations in Russia's Far East and the Sea of Japan. All right, it says Moscow, AP. Russia said Monday it will launch sweeping military drills in the country's east that will involve forces from China, a show of increasingly close defense ties between Moscow and Beijing amid tensions with the West over the Kremlin's action in Ukraine. You recall, right, or the Chinese, they basically supported Putin's decision to invade Ukraine. All right. And they understand the severity of the situation. All right. Now, on the other hand, you have other nations on the side of the U.S. who went against Russia. All right. And basically agree with the sanctions that the West put on Russia. And now those same nations are beginning to suffer. All right. Under this present rulership. All right. Under this present condition. All right. As we get closer to winter, you have nations like France, nations like Germany, all right, who are suffering an energy crisis due to their inability to access gas from Russia. All right. Russia is no longer supplying as much gas as they did before those European nations put forth their support for the West. So now we have a war game drill. All right. And these drills cost millions of dollars. All right. There's a lot of resources involved with drills of this nature. OK, so we understand that they're not doing this for no reason. OK, they won't spend millions of dollars between Russia and China. All right. And the other nations that are involved. It's millions of dollars, if not billions. All right. On a drill. All right. These are drills in preparation for something. All right. And again, it says a show of increasingly close defense ties between Moscow and Beijing amid tensions with the West over the Kremlin's action in Ukraine. And this is basically China showing public support for Russia. All right. Before we get Ezekiel 38, let's get Joel 3 and 9. This is Joel chapter 3 and 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, And what Russia is doing is giving nations who are really, truly weak the ability to be strong under the shadow of Russia. Now, China doesn't fall in that category necessarily. They're economically strong. All right. They have a military, but Russia is the peer. All right. Russia is the military that actually has battle experience at this point. All right. That could rival the U.S. and the West. OK, so they're going to give nations who are weaker the ability to believe that they're strong under this shadow, under this alliance. All right. The BRICS nations. All right. These nations are beginning to look at each other. All right. Especially the West against these other nations. They're beginning to say, look, we can take them. All right. And that's why these war games are an example of what? Of plowshares being beaten into swords. All right. So now we're coming into a time through the Spirit where the Lord's beginning to raise up a nation. All right. Or I should say a rival against the U.S. and NATO. All right. Now I want to continue in this article. All right. It says this. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the Vostok 2022 East 2022 exercise will be held September 1st through 7th in various locations in Russia's Far East and the Sea of Japan and involve more than 50,000 troops, over 5,000 weapons units, including 140 aircraft and 60 warships. I'm going to repeat that again. More than 50,000 troops, over 5,000 weapon units, including 140 aircraft and 60 warships. The ministry released a video of Chinese troops arriving in Russia in preparation for the exercise. So this thing is intensifying, okay? Now I'm going to continue. It says the drills will be conducted at 7 firing ranges in far eastern Russia and will engage troops from several former Soviet republics, along with China, India, Laos, Mongolia, Nicaragua, and Syria. The ministry said that the units of Russian airborne troops, long-range bombers, and military cargo planes will take part in the drills along with other forces. Now keep this in mind, right? It's going to engage troops from several former Soviet republics, all right, along with China, India, Laos, Mongolia, Nicaragua, and Syria. All right. India is a huge country. All right. Syria is a country that Russia supported against the West once before. All right. Now we have Mongolia and Nicaragua. All right. So now we have these nations that are beginning to align themselves with the bear as prophesied. All right. And the scriptures talk about these things happening before they actually happen. So what we see is India, which is the Elamites, all right, beginning to align themselves with Russia. OK, and let's go to Ezekiel 38. All right. This is a perfect opportunity to do so. Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 1. And it reads, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. Now keep in mind, Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, is Russia, all right, which are Edomites, but they occupy the land of Japheth, all right, which is the land of Gog, all right, Gog, the land of Magog, all right, that's the original lands of Japheth, but it's being occupied by these Edomites who are identify themselves as Russians, all right, so this is the Lord directing this at the Russians, all right, it says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army. And putting hooks into the jaws of the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal is bringing them back to that desire of Cold War. All right. The Cold War spirit, that Soviet spirit. All right. That desire to conquer. All right. And now you have nations that are no longer willing to play second place. And this is why the scriptures talk about tell the Gentiles prepare war. Now the weak are saying I am strong. They don't want to sit at the little kids' table no more. All right. Now watch this. It says, and all thine army, in verse 4, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. All right. And the Persians are what? The Iranians. All right. The Elamites. All right. Even in India, you have a lot of Elamites in India. All right. Again, it says all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. And that goes into Turkey. Now, Turkey isn't a part of this drill with Russia, but we do know, according to prophecy, all right, they will eventually join Russia. Verse 7, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. All right. So again, what we see happening is drills. All right. But according to prophecy through the Spirit, Russia is becoming a guard unto these nations. All right. Now look at these nations: Nicaragua, Mongolia, Laos, and India. All right. These are nations that aren't typically looked at on the world stage as military threats. And they're getting involved in this military drill. What that's going to do is it's going to embolden other weaker nations, all right, who may have been on the fence before, all right, to pick sides, because now Russia's looking like an option. All right, for those who don't want to deal with the condescending tyranny and imperialism of the West, Russia looks like a good, safe option for a lot of these nations who would like to rebel against the West, but they're not strong enough themselves. OK, so this is bigger than just them doing war games outside of them actually practicing to go against the West and NATO. All right. This is a political move as well, because these other smaller nations that are included are going to inspire, if you will, these other smaller nations to say, look, if they can get involved, why can't we? You know, they don't like the West. We don't like the West. Let's go. Let's call Lavrov. Let's call Putin. Let's get it together. Let's get right. Because eventually these nations are going to combine against Babylon the Great. Now, continuing, it says, now, again, keep in mind, this drill is going to happen the 1st through the 7th. So, you know, we'll keep our ears open to see through the Spirit if anything actually pops off. But it's a beautiful thing regardless, because it all falls into prophecy. It says the ministry said that units of Russian airborne troops, long-range bombers, and military cargo planes will take part in the drills along with other forces. And this shows you that what's going on in Ukraine isn't the best forces, all right, that are on the ground in Ukraine. You probably have some very good experienced fighters there. But the best of the best, the creme de la creme, all right, is not the ones who are really pushing and fighting this war. All right, what's going on in Ukraine is really Russia fighting with their brothers, if you will. So it's really not as full scale and violent as it could be if Russia was fighting an enemy. OK, and it's being reported that they're not using their most modern weapons. OK, continuing, it says, while first announcing the exercise last month, the Russian military emphasized that it's part of a planned combat training that's continuing despite Moscow's military action in Ukraine. It hasn't disclosed the number of troops engaged in what the Kremlin calls the special military operation there. All right, it says the ministry noted that as part of the maneuvers, the Russian and Chinese navies in the Sea of Japan will practice joint action to protect sea communications, areas of marine economic activity, and support for ground troops in littoral areas. All right. Now, I wonder what this word means here. Littoral. relating to or situated on the shore of the sea or lake. All right. So support for troops in areas near seas and lakes. And economic activity, because again, you have to remember the Chinese are a great, huge, if not the biggest economic player in the game as far as how much they produce on a global scale. All right. And Russia is what? They're a guard unto them, according to prophecy. So through the spirit, this is a beautiful time that we're living in. All right. This is outside of the war. This is outside of Putin saying that they're going to start to give their allies more modern military equipment. All right. And these things are responses to what the West has been doing for a long time. All right. Beginning with America, which is Babylon the Great. So we're coming into a time where World War III is right on the horizon. All right. And these nations spend millions, if not billions of dollars. All right. Invested in these type of activities for what? It's not for a joke. All right. It's to truly practice these maneuvers. So when it's time to go, their men are ready for it. Their men know what to do. Their men know how to collaborate with China in areas of conflict. Like, these guys aren't playing. This isn't a game for them. All right, it says this. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Fomin specified that the Navy drills would take part in the northern and central part of the Sea of Japan. The exercise isn't directed against any specific countries or military alliances and is purely defensive, Fomin said at a meeting with military attaches. All right, but this goes into Joel, the 3rd chapter, of beating your plowshares into swords. All right, and they're pruning hooks into spears. All right, because they're investing many men and many resources into doing these drills. And this is not for no reason. All right, they're eventually going to have to use this equipment. They're going to have to use their men. All right, because again, this conflict will go kinetic. All right, and that means basically it's going to go physical. All right, from Cold War to actually people getting killed and bombs and everything else that come with it. All right. Matter of fact, that reminds me of this. Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. All right. And these drills give you examples of that, where you hear them jets, you hear the missiles go off. All right. You see them blow something up and you hear the explosion, the crack of the gunfire. This is the time that we're in now. Modern warfare. All right. And these war games are in preparation for that. All right. So real quick, this is the last paragraph I'll jump into. You know what? No, let me jump into this one. This is the one I wanted. Russia, in turn, has strongly backed China amid the tensions with the U.S. that followed a recent visit to Taiwan by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So China and Russia are getting close. China supported Russia and Ukraine, and in turn, Russia supported China in its stance on Taiwan. And they're basically in cahoots. Like, hey, if they touch you, they touch me. It's beautiful. It says, President Vladimir Putin drew parallels between U.S. support for Ukraine and Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, charging that both were part of alleged American efforts to foment global instability. All right, let's get this word here. Foment, which is instigate. Efforts to instigate global instability. Absolutely. Russia and China have held a series of joint war games in recent years, including naval drills and patrols by long-range bombers over the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea. Last year, Russian troops, for the first time, deployed to Chinese territory for joint maneuvers. So they're in tight. And these other nations are going to start to get more involved. The more bold Russia and China become, all right, it's going to give inspiration to the smaller nations to not only join with them, but to also be bold, to lift the head up, to say, have you become weak as we? All right, because that's exactly what's happening. All right, this is Isaiah 14:9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? All right. So watching China and Russia get together, watching how the U.S. reacts to it, all of these things are creating instability, if you will. All right. And what they mean by instability is basically the world order is changing. All right. These nations that are playing the 2, the 3, the 4, they don't want to play those positions no more. And the U.S. doesn't want to give up the #1 spot. So what is inevitable is World War III. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. I just wanted to hit that real quick because it's a quick hit, because it is a war drill. And Lord willing, we'll be able to see what plays out in it and if anything bigger comes from it. But again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwathim, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.